Hello and welcome to the Road to Autonomy. The Road to Autonomy is brought to you in part by Stantec Generation AV. Stantec Generation AV combines some of the most experienced AV experts in the industry with the resources of a global engineering firm. Stantec Generation AV provides education, consulting, assessment, and guidance to any industry interested in autonomous vehicles. Learn more at stantec.com. Hello and welcome to the Road to Autonomy. I'm your host, Grayson Brulte. On today's episode, we're absolutely honored to have Ernest Huffman, Aviation Planning and Education Program Manager, North Central Texas Council of Governments. Welcome to the podcast, Ernest.
No, thank you for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here. Your colleague, Thomas Bamonte, speaks the world of you, and when he was on a previous podcast, said Ernest knows more about aviation than anybody I met, so I'm looking forward to this.
Well, that might be true. I don't know how many people he knows that work in aviation, so I might be one or two of the only people he knows. So it's not hard to be that guy.
Well, everybody I talk to says you're a special gentleman, so I'm looking forward to this. When did you first become interested in aviation?
Interesting you bring that up. It started in high school. Had a high school professor. I was a class clown who always slept or joked around in class, but I would always get A's on his exam. So he'd say, Ernest, you're smart, you're bright, but you're a class clown. You need to focus your energy. What do you want to do for a living? What's your career choice? And I didn't thought I was going to be Jerry Rice. So I told him NFL. He said, Ernest, if that's not realistic, you need a backup plan. What are you going to do? So he made me stay after school for a grade. He said, you stay after school, you skip the class report, the team paper at the end, figure out what your career trajectory would be, get back to me, and we'll work on that. So I went back to the library that day, and this is when AOL was still in effect, full of dial-up, and probably spent about 5 minutes looking for careers, then spent the rest of the time playing number crunchers, or number munchers was the game of choice at the time. But I decided I wanted to be an astronaut because I was a heavy reader in science fiction. Then he said, Ernest, okay, how do you become an astronaut? Well, Mr. Fiore, I have no idea. So he sent me back to the library the same night, that next day, and I researched it and found you can go military, scientist, engineer, or pilot. Okay. I didn't want to do military, didn't want to do scientist because I hated the lab practicals at the end of every experiment, hated the write-up portion. Didn't want to do engineering, thought it was too much math, so I said pilot. That's how it started, just that simple.
And bringing it full circle, you're a pilot today.
Well, I flew all the way up to my private pilot's license, and I went to undergrad for a professional pilot degree. So I'm not a commercial pilot, and I haven't flown actually in about 20 years.
Wow. But you took the advice from your teacher seriously, and you applied yourself.
I definitely did. Well, he gave me direction because I didn't have much of one at the time.
You're embarked on this wonderful career now. You have the experience of going through the training to become a pilot. You're looking at this differently than most individuals. So how are you looking at the future of aviation with this really interesting background of yours?
It's interesting you say that. So earlier in my career, I was just enjoying the ride. But now that I'm in government, I'm able to look at stuff from a macro perspective, as opposed to when I was an aviation consultant, we'd work from a project. So a micro perspective, you're focused in on individual projects or individual cities and individual airports. So now looking at it from a holistic macro perspective, and in my early background is doing some economist work. I think of aviation as a competitive industry, a means for folks to get out of their current situations in urban communities. And I work hand in hand on our educational platforms to reach out to communities to get them access to aviation. It's a career field that you can enter into with prestige. There's honor in it. And you don't have to be the smartest people or group of people to do it. And also the aviation community as a whole is the best probably industry to work in. Everybody's very helpful. Most folks go through some similar pains to get to where they're at in this industry. And it's just a joy to be a part of.
Is that how you first became involved with Tuskegee NEXT, who's doing incredibly wonderful things? They're honoring the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. They're helping at-risk children through aviation education. Did you say, wait a second, I had this professor that changed my life. Perhaps I can have a positive impact on these children?
That's exactly what happened. So I was fortunate to get the opportunity to work when I was in Chicago at my previous stop with the organization Tuskegee NEXT when they started back in I can't get the year, but I was there for their inaugural year. And my overall goal with working with that program was career introduction to students. So just some background on that program. They still do. They take 10 at-risk youth from the inner city, really sharp kids, really motivated kids. Not all of them are interested in aviation when they first begin, but we bring them in to a summer program where they start from 0 flight hours and fly and get all the way up to their private pilot's license over a summer. Now, my duty with that particular organization was to get the kids. I got them every weekend over the summer to introduce them to aviation and the various aviation careers. So I would have friends, I would tap into my network around industry to bring in folks from air traffic control. I was worked in aviation planning. I could bring folks from FAA, just folks from all the sectors in aviation so they can get exposure to the various careers. Because when I went for my undergrad, I was primarily focused on being a pilot. Didn't have any other sights on any other career. So when I graduated with that pilot's license, I could do literally nothing else but be a pilot. And I didn't have exposure to those other careers. It wasn't until I actually got into grad school that I learned about a lot of the different other aviation careers out there that folks can get into that don't require flying. So with that Tuskegee NEXT program, they still run that every year. We still take 10 kids through that program. I'm loosely affiliated with them now, being that I'm in the DFW region, but they take kids from all over the country now and fly them up to Chicago for that summer program.
What are some of the expressions on these children's faces when they go up for the first time? Is it just ear to ear grin, like happy, and then perhaps a light bulb goes off? Wait a second, I could build a plane that could fly better than this. Does the imagination take over at that point?
It varies. So like I mentioned, some of the kids aren't aviators when they start. Some of them are really heavily into it. So those folks who are heavily into it, yeah, they're amazed. They're getting their stuff started and it's free for them. So we're getting their career started. Now, those folks who are new were similar to me. When I first started flying, I couldn't believe it. You're going to trust me with this airplane? I don't have a driver's license. Okay. And I'm flying. I had my pilot's license before I even had my driver's license. So I just couldn't get over the fact that you're going to trust me with this, the responsibility. So some of the kids, when they get in there, they're nervous, they're scared. You don't have exposure to aircraft when you come from certain situations. Like when I first started flying, I hadn't even traveled on an airplane yet. So just that unique experience for the kids, transformative in their lives.
And bringing this full circle, I know you didn't like doing the lab papers, but now you're in government with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. You got a partnership with NASA to study the potential of drone technology integrated in transportation. It's like, okay, Ernest, this is coming full circle even more now.
It's coming full circle. Yes, it is. And it's weird because I've had a bunch of different stops in my career till this point. And I think that flexibility in my career choices have served me well in this role. So I've been able to pivot to now working with NASA on autonomous technologies, things you don't do in traditional aviation. They're not talking autonomy on that side of the fence yet. So it's just been a very fun experience for us.
Could you expand upon the partnership that the council has with NASA, please?
Yep. So we were fortunate to win in a partnership with NASA back in February. We competed with other regions around the country, and we were selected amongst 4 other regions. But the overall goal is for NASA to work with their intellectual property they've been developing in the unmanned aerial vehicle space over the last few years. They've been collaborating with other regions in the country who've actually been implementing the technology, researching and testing out the technology, finding all those lessons learned in those fact-finding missions, and they're helping us translate that onto paper here in North Texas.
And that rings true because in an interview you conducted with Drone Life in August, you say the following about the partnership. They will provide lessons learned on intellectual property, provide us with subject matter experts to connect the dots, guide us in our funding efforts, and all other elements we need to succeed in the advanced air mobility space. Is this how you plan on connecting the dots, what you just described?
Absolutely, and it's great. I'm glad to hear my elevator pitches remain the same since that meeting. But that's exactly what it is. We have a nice partner list of stakeholder list of folks who are working within the region and out of region, and we also have folks on our partner list that are in the UK and other countries too. So just getting that IP in house, because when we started our drone initiative, we didn't have any intellectual property or any bandwidth on the drone side. So that interaction with NASA is very, very fortunate for us.
DFW has always been known as somebody who flies a lot. Okay, that's the home of American Airlines. But now North Texas is the home of aviation innovation. What changed? What caused that incredible amount of industry bells there? You've got, it just seems every day, then Uber went there. Every day there's a new announcement, another aviation company is expanding to North Texas to innovate.
I think that's just all off the strength of the DFW region. It's economic growth, the population growth we've seen here, and our dominance in aerospace engineering, transportation, and logistics. So there's various industry clusters that we were already very competitive in. So when you see that and you compare us to other regions around the country where they're losing population, they're losing business, and we're attracting all of that, it's just easy to be innovative here. Great business environment. Our cities and state government work well with businesses in there, and then it's easier to get employees here with no state tax.
Your business climate in Texas is absolutely phenomenal. And that's a huge driving thing. No state income tax, lack of regulation, and an overall, you welcome business at a state level, local level. You don't try and penalize business. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look. Charles Schwab relocated from California to North Texas. They moved a lot of things. Goldman Sachs is opening a 100,000 square foot office. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin's operating in Texas. SpaceX is operating in Texas. The big question I have is, who's not operating in Texas is what it's going to come down to.
No, we like to see the growth. It makes my job easier when you have the growth and justification for some of these emerging technologies, right? And we're going to keep attracting these businesses, these new industries here. And we have a great thing, though. We have a lot of space, too, right? Our region, there's a lot of space where we're constrained in a lot of other areas by geography and things of that nature.
I'm in Florida. We're constrained because we're a peninsula. And we don't have as much land as you do. So I'm like, okay, Texas, Florida, we got a great partnership here. You can do all the cool stuff and we can do all the water stuff.
So I went to FIT right up the coast, Florida Institute of Technology for grad school. So I know Florida very well.
Yeah, to me, if you look at this, there's got to have to be at some point a really great innovation relationship between the two states because they complement each other. Very similar business climates, both pro-innovation. There's something going here for Jamal Sorrell. You're the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Florida. I know you listen. Call Ernest up. Let's make something happen, sir.
Well, it's interesting you do. We literally had visitors from Tampa 3 weeks ago talking to us about the drone integration stuff we're doing and the aviation stakeholder groups we've established to try to duplicate some of the things we're doing in North Texas. So I'm thinking Florida is definitely paying attention, and I think some of that stuff is going on behind the scenes, sir.
Absolutely fantastic. If you look at what's happening publicly, I saw the Bell autonomous drone successfully delivered a package at the Hillwoods Alliance Texas Mobility Innovation Zone autonomously. That was really cool. What were your thoughts on that project?
The craziest thing is autonomous flights and things of that nature. It's coming. It's on the horizon. It's not necessarily here. So for them folks to have gotten that done, it's a monumental achievement. And to do it in the current regulatory environment we have for those type of flights is an achievement because it's tough to do. Typically, scheduling a flight, doing a flight of an autonomous beyond visual line of sight flight with drone technology can take you about 6 to 9 months to get authorization from the FAA. So that's how it is. So for them to do that, monumental. But now off those lessons learned with them, now we've transitioned. We're working with NASA on another thing. What is it called? Their national campaign, where they're looking to actually do some of those autonomous air taxi flights. We're working with another collaborative group here in North Texas to do a full air taxi autonomous flight in 2023 in conjunction with Hillwood and some of those other folks who got off that the initiative you just mentioned. So those lessons learned on that smaller scale, we're going to do a larger thing in 2023 that's going to be real transformative.
Is it helping you that American Airlines publicly came out and announced that they're pre-ordering 250 eVTOLs? Is that kind of adding to that momentum, being based at DFW? A major carrier is saying, we're going in on this technology?
I haven't seen any direct benefits from that, but just that investment into the air taxi industry by American Airlines and other airlines have done it. I think I've seen that United had put a purchase in with another entity. Just those investments alone go a long way to make sure that industry continues to grow.
Texas is known for football, and I gotta ask, you have an individual flies into DFW that's a Cowboys fan. Will they eventually in the future be able to hop on an eVTOL, go see the Cowboys game, go back to the airport, and go home to have this only in Texas experience where Jerry Jones is like, we did it again. We did it again.
That's definitely a business case or a use case we're exploring heavily. DFW Airport is one of the foremost airports in the country, heavily interested in integrating air taxi, air cargo operations with these type of aircraft. They've assigned innovation staff directly to solving that issue around flying from the airport, Cowboy Stadium, the airport downtown, Vertiport, airport, Frisco Star, that kind of jazz. So yeah, we're very invested in that type of operation.
Is it fair to say then the North Central Texas Council of Governments is all in on the future of advanced air mobility?
All in the future of advanced air mobility. And as you talk with Tom, the future of automated ground vehicles as well. And we're working together now to find synergies between the two groups, that we're solving issues together, sharing funding, working on the community engagement messaging from a regional perspective. So I think it's fair to say we're all in on autonomy, period, here in North Texas.
Connecting air and ground is going to make wonderful experiences. You're going to build the future. You'll be able to take an AV to a vertiport, hop in the eVTOL, go your 20, 30 miles, and get in a vehicle again. It's one of those things that you're one of only a handful of states that can actually build this future. But the big thing that you have in Texas, you have leadership. You have leadership at your level. Ernest, you're going out there, you're building these partnerships with NASA. Tom's going out there and building with the autonomous vehicle industry. You have it from your state representatives, all the way up to the governor's mansion. It's this incredible ecosystem of the Texas innovation ecosystem is really what it is.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think me and Tom are walking behind some greats. You know, Michael Morris, our transportation director, has been very innovative, and he's been able to build a platform where here in our region, we're a center of gravity for stuff in the region. And I don't think every MPO around the country has that benefit.
It's very kind of you to say, but it takes the individuals like yourselves and like Tom to make this happen. You're seeing certain parts of Texas get all the press. You have the Alliance Texas Mobility Zone. They're in the press consistently. But then there's the Mineral Wells UAS Innovation Zone, and they're doing really interesting stuff. Will you please kindly talk about the Mineral Wells UAS Innovation Zone?
Yep. Wayne Sanderson, the airport manager out there, is always trying to find innovative use of his airfield. They have a massive airfield, a holdover from the Vietnam War, where they did the majority of helicopter training out there. So they have massive real estate out there to use. So they've been working even previous to when I got here to get unmanned aircraft system activity in that area. But they've established the Mineral Wells UAS Innovation Zone a few years ago, all to figure out ways to test out these applications in a rural environment, but they want to work from a rural environment into a metropolitan environment with these applications. So using drones for package delivery, surveillance, law enforcement, etc., but also those air taxi platforms. They're going to all need places to test, certify these aircraft. And Mineral Wells sits just outside the Metroplex. Great airspace to fly in, great buy-in from the community, and a great asset for North Texas.
Certification is going to be the most challenging aspect of this. I've had the honor to speak to a lot of individuals working on eVTOL, and I had no idea until there's a gentleman who you probably interacted with, Mark Moore, who ran the Uber Elevate program. He walked me through in great detail the certification process. I'll say this very bluntly, it's not a walk in the park. It is a very complicated process.
Nope. It's not. And we got a aerospace manufacturer in region called Bell Flight. They traditionally make helicopters, and they're working on an eVTOL aircraft. But they're working on a certification of one of their helicopters that's been in existence. They're just making a simple change to the helicopter. That's been a 10-year process. So getting new aircraft certified via the FAA and other regulatory bodies, it's a process for most of these folks. So that's probably the main thing holding back that air taxi industry from starting, is getting one or two of these aircraft certified. Because once we get those certified, we can build the infrastructure requirements in and around what those aircraft look like. Then my number comes from maybe 2 or 3 years ago. There were 305 manufacturers of these air taxi aircraft around the world. Now, I'm sure that's consolidated a bit, but there's still probably over 100 folks trying to get these aircraft certified in the country.
You bring up the valid point around the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to have to be figured out. It has to be convenient, and it has to it has to work. It just can't, you can't necessarily just have it land on something because you have the weight issues and you have the noise issues with Mark's now working on with this new startup Whisper. So we covered certification. The other thing I think a lot about is public trust. How do you build the public trust around this? Have you seen anything that has worked really well to start to develop the public trust as it relates to the future of urban air mobility?
It's interesting you bring that up. Is one of our initiatives via North Texas UAS Safety and Integration Initiative. We have our public education working group where we focus on educating the general public on drone laws, safety, but improving the public's perception on the technology and educating them on what's to come. So we've been working on that. Our first really large project with that is our Know Before You Fly Your Drone workshops we host every month on a Saturday. But in working with NASA, one of our main goals is creating a public engagement program where we start indoctrinating the public on what's coming in this AAM side of things and getting their buy-in.
Once you have the buy-in, I have a young daughter. She thinks NASA's the coolest thing in the world. And so that helps the buy-in. They get the NASA sticker, or, we're lucky here. We can go up to the Kennedy Space Center and, you have yours, Johnson, down in Houston. But children generally love NASA. They're like, this is the coolest thing. So I'm sure that has to help build the trust. And Mom, Dad, this is a NASA project. This is cool. I read about this astronaut in this book and that book. I mean, I'm sure that's got to really help with the process.
Absolutely. I mean, I told you what led me to becoming an aviator was the first thought of being an astronaut. Never got there, but that's still one of those dreams that I know kids have.
You might be able to get there. You have 2 spaceship companies operate in Texas. You never know, Ernest. You might get a phone call one day. Hello, my name's Mr. Musk. Hello, my name's Mr. Bezos. And up you go.
Hey, weirder things have happened.
Absolutely. When you're looking to build this public trust, does this tie directly to the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Safety and Integration Initiative that the North Central Texas Council of Governments is working on?
Yep. And I think I just mentioned one of our public engagement programs we've developed in that project, but it definitely ties directly with what we're doing with that initiative. And
then zooming out, as a resident of the area, not as Ernest, Mr. Aviation expert, how do you envision the advanced air mobility being rolled out in the Dallas-Fort Worth region?
So the way it'll be, and this is how I envision it being rolled out, there'll be a few applications, use cases employed. Probably DFW Airport to the Dallas Vertiport, DFW Airport to Frisco Star. And the reason why those are 2 highlighted locations, because those are 2 infrastructures that are already in place. The Dallas Vertiport's been in place for close to a decade. And then the Frisco Star had just built in conjunction with Hillwood and Associates a heliport with the opportunity to convert to a vertiport. Both are located in highly trafficked locations within the Metroplex. So there will be need for folks to fly from place to place. Those will probably be the first air taxi related applications. But the first autonomous application with these aircraft will probably be on the air cargo side in and around the Hillwood facility. And that's Alliance Hillwood Innovation Zone, the northwest of the metro.
Were these plans laid originally when Uber decided to originally come in 2019? Is that where these plans were initially developed?
Great question to ask. I don't know. When Uber and Uber Elevate were doing their thing with the city of Dallas, they didn't rope us into a lot of their planning. So they rope us into a lot of the introductory meetings, the press conferences, etc. But in the direct day-to-day, the planning on how they were going to actually operate, I'm not privy to. But that Frisco Star location was built for the Uber Elevate initiative because Hillwood was their primary real estate partner on that.
Hillwood seems to be the common glue on a lot of things that connects innovation in the North Texas region. I mean, the largest inland port in the country is absolutely fascinating. We had Ian Keene on a previous podcast, and he dug into great detail all the wonderful things Hillwood's doing. They just continue to build these really great infrastructure for really great innovative companies.
Yep.
Will we get to a point in North Texas where the vision of Amazon Prime of cargo delivery becomes a fruition?
Absolutely. And main reason is because there are companies like Amazon who are invested in the tech. Without them, it wouldn't happen. But because they see a use case around it, it will most assuredly happen.
Once again, Texas is welcoming innovation. I mean, that's clearly the thing, Ernest. You're doing incredible things around aviation in Texas. You've had this this great career starting in New York. Got to give a shout out to New York because you came there, and now you're in Texas rocking and rolling. You shared this incredible story about how a professor changed your life and how you're giving back to other children through the Tuskegee NEXT program to help have a positive impact on their lives. You're building everything in Texas. What would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation as we covered a lot of ground and a lot of really good positive ground?
One of the things I've been talking with folks is the growth of the unmanned aircraft industry. There aren't enough folks like myself who are in the know with the skill set to satisfy the industry when it takes off, when the regulatory and the technology finally meet. So, and aviation is one of those things where it's ancillary, or it runs in parallel to a lot of things that people are doing. So I want to get a lot of folks, in particular, those entrepreneurs in tech, start looking at this industry because it's going to take off. It's transformative. It's not going to be stopped. And there's just not enough folks in it. So there's a lot of opportunity. So I've been spending time, talking with DBEs and women-owned businesses around the country that I know of in my network, educating them on the opportunities coming here. On the planning side, there are going to be tons of opportunities. On the infrastructure deployment, just on the general logistics side, we're working on a grant right now to feed the logistics side of this business or that industry here in the metro. Tons of opportunity, and I need folks thinking about it. It's just one of those things. It's a new industry, man. It's like, for me, it's like the cell phone is coming online, or the smartphone is coming online for the first time. That's how new it is and transformative I think it'll be.
It's a positive opportunity for millions of individuals. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a pilot. You have to have an imagination, and you look at this, how can I make this better? How can I have a positive impact on society? That's going to make a really big difference. And to the individuals that are listening, and perhaps you have a younger child and you're interested, aviation is a wonderful career. It's only going to grow. They say the internet connects the world, but there's nothing like a face-to-face meeting. And most of the time you get there on an aircraft, and soon you'll get there on an eVTOL. And something tells me that Ernest and the team in Texas are going to continue to rock and roll and build the future of aviation. And Ernest, I thank you so much for coming on the Road to Autonomy today to share your incredible insights, because the future is bright, the future is autonomous, and the future is Texas. Thank you so much, Ernest.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Road to Autonomy podcast. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Want to get in touch? Follow us on Twitter at Road to Autonomy, or email podcast@brulteco.com. The Road to Autonomy is produced by Brulte & Company. The views and opinions expressed on the Road to Autonomy podcast do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Brulte & Company. The content discussed on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as legal, tax, investment, or business advice.